anyway, we've only got an hour, and I don't want to keep you guys too long, so I'm going to move along at a fair clip. But if I'm doing something too fast, you've missed what I've said, and you need me to slow down or whatever, please just unmute yourselves and say, hold on, or I don't get it, or what are you on about, or I didn't catch what you said because you got that funny accent. And, you know, though I speak the Queen's English, of course. So anyway, please, that's fine. Otherwise, can you all mute so we don't get feedback from people clunking and clunking pots and pans and machines and whatever, all right? We're going to start off first. I hope you had a chance to measure everything out. It makes things go a little quicker. We're going to start off making the candied ginger scones. Now, I had someone contact me about getting the candied ginger. I hope most of you are able to get it. I did explain that you can actually make it. Or you could use a substitute of something else if you wanted to. But the candied ginger, the nice thing about it keeps forever. So if you bought a bag and thought, I'm never going to use this again, you may get a taste for it. I like to just snack on it on its own. I think it's really nice. It gives you a little buzz kind of thing because it's so spicy in a really good way. So we're going to make those first. I'm going to make mine in my electric mixer, but you can use a hand mixer for this. What I do want you to do, though, is to turn your ovens on to 375 if you're going to be baking these things, so that we can put them straight into the oven when we're ready. And you're going to need a cookie sheet with either some parchment paper on it, or if you have one of those mats that go on it that go in the oven, that's great. And you're going to need a cookie cutter as well, and probably a rolling pin, but you don't really need a rolling pin because you can flatten the dough down. So we're going to make the actual scones first, and then we're going to macerate the berries right after that. So in the main recipe, we have 10 tablespoons. It's an odd amount because I've cut this down, so you're going to end up with 4 of these, okay? Normally, we wouldn't make recipes with 10 tablespoons of flour, but, you know, we're making it so you haven't got so many, you eat them all and gain 20 pounds. So 10 tablespoons of flour, 1 1/4 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 1/4 tablespoons of sugar, about 3/4 tablespoon of butter, 2 tablespoons of milk, 2 tablespoons of cream, and 3/4 teaspoon of egg, which I know is really silly. It doesn't matter if you get a little bit more. And I'll tell you how we do that in a second. And then our minced candied ginger. Now, what I did with my ginger, if you haven't chopped it up already, I suggest you actually do it with a pair of scissors. Because it's sticky inside, it's kind of hard to do it with a knife. So I just took scissors and cut it into really fine pieces. All right, like that, to make it, because trying to cut it with a knife is kind of hard. So that's what we want to do. So as I say, I'm going to do it in the mixer here. So in here, we are going to put, excuse me, flour, baking powder, sugar, and all in the machine here, and I'm going to add the butter to it. Now again, it's only a little bit of butter, so I'm just going to cut mine in a few pieces to put it in. No, that's all right. I still had some noise coming, but I don't. And we just want to kind of mix this together. So do it fairly slow. We're basically going to make sure that butter sort of breaks down into tiny little pieces in there and is evenly distributed in the flour mixture. All right. Now for that egg, what I want you to do is to take a whole egg, just break it in a bowl, and then whisk it together. Now I know it's hard to measure 3/4 teaspoon. If you get a teaspoon in, it doesn't matter. That'll be fine. I was just literally going with dividing the recipe to make the four scones. So as I say, you end up a little bit more in a minute, but you do want to mix it together because you want some yolk and some white in there. Okay. So what you're looking for really is like sort of breadcrumby sort of effect. So it'll look like breadcrumbs. And that just means the butter's broken down and is distributed throughout the flour. All right. And once you get to that point, I'm going to turn this right down to as low as it will go. And I'm going to add my 2 tablespoons of milk. Right in there. And my, where are we? Cream. Yes, 2 tablespoons of cream as well. And then about a slight teaspoon, shall we say, of your egg. All right. It is hard to do this because it is. There we go. That's it. And let that mix together a little bit. Now, this should be it'll be a fairly dry mixture. To get it to mix together properly before we put our ginger in. All right. A tiny bit of cream left in there. Drizzle it in. It should just sort of be coming together. All right. And then I'm going to put my crystallized ginger in as well. And if you're doing it in an electric mixer, get it to come together, just about come together in a ball, okay? All right. Now we want to, one thing I didn't know, you want a tiny bit of extra flour if you have some, because you want to make sure this doesn't stick when you're rolling out or flattening out your dough. And I just grabbed a little bit more here. So, now, if for some reason, if your mixture isn't sticking together like this, see mine is sticking together, then add just a tiny bit more milk, maybe like a teaspoon of milk to it to make it come together in your hand like this, okay? Put this out of the way. Now these scones want to be about 3/4 of an inch thick, all right, at least. So when you have your dough like this, sprinkle some flour, not too much, on your counter or whatever you're going to use. Chopping board will work too. And then, as I say, you can literally do this by flattening it out with your hand, or you can do it with a rolling pin. It's kind of up to you what you want to use. You can even use a bottle. I'm going to push this together, and I'm going to roll it out to about 3/4 of an inch thick. Kind of like that. So I'm probably going to get 2 out of each roll pretty much. You can use a glass as a cookie cutter as well, about 2.5 to 3 inches. All right. Mine's a little bigger, so I'm just going to smush this together. I may only get 3 out of mine. Depends on what size cookie cutter you're using as to how many of these. And these are going to be split with the fruit inside, so I thought you wouldn't want to be making too many. The second one, and we have enough for a third one. And these want to go on a cookie sheet that's lined either with one of these baking mats I have here, or you could do it with parchment paper. All right, so let's flatten this one out. Woo, there we go. There we go. One's a little thinner than the other one, but you want to make sure you use all your dough up, all right? So put them on your cookie sheet. It just wants to come together so it'll hold together, all right? And it does depend on the flour you use, how carefully you measured it, etc., etc. So don't be surprised if it doesn't come together just like mine did. Because it really depends on the flour you're using a lot. So, like I don't like Pillsbury flour. I've had a very unpleasant experience with it once. And I never buy Pillsbury. I would buy Giant Eagle over Pillsbury. It's just, it does vary. Brands vary. And it also varies different parts of the country, different times of the year, how warm your house is, what country you're in, almost what day of the week it is. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. So when you have 3 or 4 like this, all right, you are going to put them into your oven once it beeps, and they are going, excuse me, we're going to pop them in. Oops. And we're going to bake them for about 10 minutes, all right? They don't take an awful lot of time to bake. Now, again, if you know your oven cooks faster for some reason, or you're not sure, then maybe put them on for a little less time. You can always put them back in for a couple of minutes afterwards. All right. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to get your stuff in the oven, and then we're going to do the macerate the fruit. You want preferably a glass or a glass or a plastic bowl for your fruit. Don't put them in a metal bowl because you're going to put the sugar and the booze on them, and the booze is acidic. All right, so I don't know what fruit you all chose. I did blueberries. You could do raspberries, whatever you like, really. And you could even use frozen fruit, although the fresh fruit is better. So we're going to macerate this fruit. All right, that's nothing difficult. It just basically means soak it with some sugar and some other form of flavoring. And our flavoring, I've got cassis. I actually have some cassis here, which is a berry brandy, but rum is always good, brandy's good, anything is fine like that, particularly when you mix it with sugar. And all you're going to do is pop your fruit into a non-metal bowl of some sort, preferably so they lie almost in like a single layer or 2 layers, so that when we put the stuff on, it'll be immersed in the liquid. All right, so for this I have 2 tablespoons of sugar, which I'm going to sprinkle over the top. And I have 2 tablespoons, which is say I have cassis, but whatever you're using, that's why I suggested you might want to use rum. If you're using rum for the bananas foster as well, you could use rum. And then mix them together like that. This is a great way to serve fruit for any reason at all, over ice cream, with pound cake, with favorite cookies or something like nice, simple dessert. Fairly light. I know we've got some sugar in there, but you can modify the sugar a bit, particularly when the fruit gets sweeter in the summer. You can modify the fruit. Some things you can macerate for longer. Berries, like blueberries, you can macerate a long time because they've got the thick skins on them. But if you were going to do raspberries or strawberries, you wouldn't want to do them for a long time and even peaches or nectarines, because obviously they're softer fruits, and the alcohol gets into them, which is great, and it softens the food up a bit, but it would make it really mushy if you left it too long. So overnight wouldn't be good, but you could definitely leave the blueberries overnight, and they will improve even with as time goes on. So they could just sit to one side with whatever booze you've put on, because they're going to get put in the middle of our scones when the scones bake. So all you should have left now is some cream and confectioner sugar, which we're going to whip up to put on the scones, but we'll do that a little bit later. All right. Everybody all right? So if I'm going too fast, yell out at me and say, slow down, you've lost me. All right, so we're going to do our strawberries next. This is nice and easy, but fun. And you can do these with other fruits. I was talking to my girlfriend about this morning, and she says when cherries come out, she loves to do it with cherries, where she holds the stem, dips it all in the chocolate like that, and you get it completely covered in chocolate. Of course, the cherry's always really expensive, but they are really good. So I just have my chocolate and I have my strawberries sitting right here. I did wash these. Ideally, you want to keep the stems on because it's easier to dip the strawberries, okay? And you want, again, something with either parchment or wax paper on so that you can lay the strawberries on once you've dipped them in the chocolate. What you are going to need, I like to melt my chocolate like this, like a bain-marie, a water bath, because it means you can watch it the whole time and make sure that it melts gently and slowly, because if it melts too quickly, it tightens, which means it goes like brown glue and you can't use it. So if you've got a small pot and you want something, a bowl of some sort that will sit on the top but not touch the water in the bottom. So again, it could be a metal bowl, it could be a Pyrexy type bowl, something that you can put, it's all right, it gets hot, all right? So I have these little metal bowls here, but if you've got something Pyrex or Le Creuset or something like that that would go in the oven, that you can put over your pot. So you want to take a pot with put about 1 inch of water in the bottom. And what you're going to do with this, you are just going to heat it up. Let it get hot, let it come to a simmer, and then we will put the chocolate, we'll turn it right down, and we'll put the chocolate on the top and let it melt, okay? So I've got chocolate chips. They're semi-sweet chocolate chips. That's the best to work with when you're cooking because they are less likely to do that tightening thing and get overcooked. So I like to use semi-sweet, but the chocolate chips are great because you don't have to. I've used Belgian chocolate at school a lot, and there's big hunks of chocolate, but you have to shave it all, which is a bit of a pain. So. I'm actually melting a little bit of white chocolate. I'm going to drizzle on the top as well afterwards, but I've already got it in a little pastry bag, so I just wanted to get it soft. Now the nice thing, you can use, you can put sprinkles on these, or you could dip them in ground up chocolate. Once you've dipped them in the chocolate, you could dip them in or cocoa powder or confectioner's sugar or whatever you want. Or do white chocolate if you want to. You do have to be more careful with white chocolate when you're heating it because it goes sort of like glue much more easily than the regular chocolate because it isn't chocolate. It's basically sugar and flavorings. So there's no actually real chocolate in it. So my water is simmering, so I'm going to turn it down as low as my flame will go, and I'm going to put my little bowl with my chocolate right on the top, and I'm going to let it keep an eye on it, take a little spoon, move it around until it's all melted. Don't be tempted to turn it up, all right, because that's when it will tighten, and so you really want your flame as low as you can possibly get it, and just move your chocolate around and let it soften up. And so I have my cookie sheet here I've got a sheet of parchment paper on here to lay my strawberries on, otherwise they'll stick. See how my scones are doing. Ah, great. Now my chocolate's melting pretty quickly, which it should do. The easiest way to melt chocolate is to give it to a 2-year-old and put it in their hand. So we all know that body heat melts chocolate. So you don't need an awful lot of heat to get the chocolate melted. But you do want it nice and smooth so that when we dip the strawberries in, you haven't got any lumps in there. And also it's thin enough that it doesn't clump on there in a big lump. And once you get about 3/4 of it melted, you can take it off and let it sit on the just on the hot pot of water. All right, those are my scones. I'm just going to check and see how they're doing. Hopefully they're done. All right, I'm going to give them another 2 minutes. They don't look quite as brown as I'd like. You want a little bit of color on the top of them, but not too much. Just a little bit of color. Trying to get my. So I'm letting my chocolate melt. It's almost there. I'm just going to go the overhead so you can see. All right, so you want it to be really nice and smooth, like mine is right there. So I'm gonna, and this is why you keep and you don't put the chocolate all the way up. You put it about 2/3, 3/4 of the way up. All right. I'm gonna leave my chocolate in here because I want to keep it fairly fluid. All right. So I'm gonna tip this bowl slightly and just sort of roll my strawberry around in it, and then let it drip a little bit. I know you can't. There you go. And then lay it on here. All right. All right. And there's my scones again. Oh, that looks better. Just a little bit of color on the top. So I've just got a tiny bit of, I'll try to show you guys. There we go. A little tiny bit of color on the top. All right, so I'm going to let those sit and carry on with my strawberries. Sometimes your flipping stalk comes off, which is what's happening with this one. So I'm going to have to, there we go. And if you have leftover chocolate, just put it in a container and stick it in your cupboard, because you can use it at another time. You don't have to throw it away. And it's also obviously then it'll melt a little quicker if it's already sort of in this state. It'll obviously solidify, but it'll melt quicker than it did in the first place. Because you usually end up with some chocolate left over. Which is why I didn't get you to do a load more, because you'll have loads of it. You do want to let a little bit of it drip off. This is the best way to eat strawberries. Of course, not the healthiest way, but the best way. All right. One thing you can do, if it's really, you might be able to save it. It's up to you. You can throw in like a tablespoon of butter and whisk it in and then reheat it a bit. And that sometimes works. Not always. You heat it, you got it too hot. And it happens a lot, believe me. So don't be ashamed. Failing that, do some more chocolate chips, learn by your mistake, and then you won't do it the next time. This stalk doesn't want to stay on this one. There we go. All right. Now I'll just show you if I got this white chocolate, what's name enough. I just melted a little bit of white chocolate I had, and I made, I have a little disposable piping bag that I put it in. I'm going to put a couple of squiggles on these when they set up a little bit. I'm going to leave them for a few minutes first. Now, no matter how much chocolate you had, you always end up with some left. All right, I'm going to pop mine in the fridge because I want to put a little bit of that white chocolate on in a minute, but I want obviously the dark chocolate to set up first. So I'm just going to pop these in here. So my scones are right here. I'm going to take them off here and let them get cool. I'm going to stick them on a plate so they cool down. So how we do with our strawberries? Ah, sorry, mouse. With that tightening business, if you see it start to happen, as soon as you see it start to happen, you have to throw the butter in. So if you wait until you've got fudge, it's usually pretty impossible to do it at that point. So, all right, I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes to finish those, and then we're going to move on and do the starting part for the bananas, which is dead easy, she says. So you can actually, if you're still doing your strawberries, just stop for a second and let's just start the mixture for the bananas, because you can just put it on, let it melt on its own while you're finishing your strawberries. So if you're doing 4 bananas, you want about a stick of butter. All right. If you're doing less, then just adjust it accordingly and just cut it into pieces. And you want to put it into a medium-sized fry pan. All right. And to that, you're going to add brown sugar and cinnamon. And then you can just put this on a real low heat and let it melt while you finish your strawberries, okay? Now, the nice thing about this bananas foster, you can do this part way ahead, and then you can even cook the bananas. Like if you're doing these for a dinner party, you can cook the bananas before dinner, and then all you've got to do is the showstopper bit, the flambe bit, which people are always impressed with. So you can do it and show people, have them come into your kitchen once you've mastered it, and you can show them how clever you are and that you can flambe, maybe. Although with the recent history with the chocolate, I'm not so sure.
How much butter do we need in the pan?
If you're doing 4 bananas, about a stick.
Okay, thank you.
Bananas, half a stick, all right?
Cool.
You basically take the banana like this, put it down, take your knife, cut it right through the middle. So you got 2 long bits like that. If they start to fall apart, it's no big deal. You can, it still tastes exactly the same. So we have desserts coming out. I have a huge cake left over from a class yesterday. I've already had 1 piece of today. Trying not to eat all the desserts. Now you can do bananas foster type thing with other fruit as well. I've done it with peaches. I've done it with nectarines. I think are really nice. I have done it with berries, well, that isn't my favorite thing to do with berries, but same idea. You would just adjust your ingredients. You might want to use a white sugar instead of a brown sugar, and maybe not cinnamon, maybe something else, or just flour and butter. Sorry, just butter and sugar, and then the alcohol you ignite. Again, you could adjust and change. You just need alcohol. You can't flambe in beer or wine, so you would just a booze.
I have a question.
Yes.
It's always the matter of salted butter or unsalted butter. What's the deal?
Unsalted. And the reason is salt hides the rancidity of butter. So unsalted butter is by definition fresher because it will taste off much sooner because you won't be able to taste it. And you also, the idea is use unsalted because you don't want to add salt to the recipe. You would add that according to the recipe, not from the butter. All right. But it doesn't really matter. But that's the official. All right, so what you want to do is stir this mixture around. It shouldn't feel gritty anymore, because you want to get rid of the you want to melt the sugar. So once it's not gritty anymore, you know you've melted your sugar. Okay. It'll take a few minutes. And you can definitely do this with white sugar too. It doesn't have to be brown sugar. It's just classically brown sugar. In fact, I think originally it was dark brown sugar, but I tend to have more white, regular brown sugar. So I always use regular brown sugar. And it's nothing wrong with that taste. Sugar, butter, and cinnamon on its own before you even put the booze in. It's great. All right, so this is nearly a little bit gritty still, but it's nearly melted. I am gonna put my bananas in. I'm gonna turn my heat right down again, fairly low. My bananas now. The amount of time your bananas will take will depend on how ripe they are. I'm just doing 3 bananas. Lay them in, and then really they just want to be soft. They don't want to be like, we don't want stewed bananas. But they want to be soft, okay? So you're just going to cook them, usually, unless your bananas are really underripe, about 2 to 3 minutes on the first side and simmer on the second side. But it really depends. And you turn them over, they should feel soft, like a cooked banana, all right? So we'll let those do their thing, keep an eye on them. And then I'm going to whip my cream. Now, I'm just going to do this by hand because it's a small amount. You can do it with a hand mixer. I haven't got a hand electric mixer here. I'm going to do it with a good old-fashioned way. This is just the cream that's going to go inside our scones. So I'm just, I have confectioner's sugar and cream. The reason you should use confectioner's sugar is because when you melt regular sugar, it gives off a liquid. As we know, it goes liquidy. And you don't want to do that with the cream. You want to use powdered sugar because it doesn't do that. So I'm just going to whip this by hand. If you're going to do it in your machine, you can do it with your, with your hand whisk.
I have a question on the banana thing, right? Have you ever done it with a sugar substitute?
You could. I haven't. Yes, you could. It wouldn't affect the flambéing or anything. It would be fine. Yes.
Okay.
I haven't though. I usually indulge and think if I'm gonna eat that butter and I'm gonna have that rum, I might as well have real sugar. But,
diabetic. Just have diabetic family members. So.
Yes, you could. Yes, you could. You can definitely do it with that. It won't affect it at all. It's not going to affect the flambé part at all. It's only thing we're doing small amounts. I have to do this by hand, but it's not my favourite thing to do in the world. It's getting there though. It's only a small amount. We want those stiff peaks to put on our scones. Yeah, there we go. Great. All right, let me see how my bananas are doing. Be careful turning them over. It's not terrible if they break, but you might want to just do it with a spatula to turn them over. So just check them out, and they should be, yeah, mine are soft on one side, so I'm just going to flip them over. If I can, oh, come on. There we go. I just broke one. Never mind. Invariably, we break a couple of them when we do this, which is why sometimes we just do them in quarters to start off with, because that's the way they often end up. So, all right, turn my last one over. Go on, off you go. There we go. So I have them like this. They look cooked on that side, all right? So I'm going to let them cook on the second side. So I'm going to put that overhead projector on in a camera on in a second. I'm going to see if my strawberries are set up a little bit. Yes. They don't take long to dry, your strawberries. I'll just show you what I was going to do with these just to, while we're waiting for the bananas to cook. Just going to warm that up a bit. I'm doing a very small amount of chocolate in there, which is, I melted it first of all, but then I'm just putting it in here to soften it up so that I can pipe it out of here. Let's see. Come on. There we go. So I just have, I'll show you on here. Let me turn this over to me. I can do it. And I'll just show you how I'm going to put these. I'm going to pipe these on here. Where am I? So this little tiny pastry bag, and I'm just going to do a drizzle and make sure this is coming out first before I start. Yes, there we go. And I'm just going to go like a couple of drizzles on there, maybe an up and down drizzle, maybe some dots. Not the most beautiful dots, but there you go. Decorating is not my forte. I always tell my students, if you see I'm doing a cake decorating class, don't come. Because it's not something I can't draw with a pencil. So it's not really my thing. But I can do this. This makes it a little bit more interesting. I say sprinkles work great. You want to put your sprinkles on while your chocolate's still wet, obviously. Okay, so let's do the old flambe. So my bananas are cooked. So I'm going to turn this around. My bananas are nice and cooked there, okay? I'm going to put my bananas to the back. I'm going to turn these lights off so that you guys can see the flambeing, all right? Because it's hard to see it. And it might be a little hard even to see it in the daylight, to be quite honest, but let's see. Oh, wrong one. I'll get it a little darker. So, I want to use the smaller pan, actually. Where did I put it? Ah. Oh, well, I guess I'm using this one. Okay, so there it is. I'm going to use a small saucepan. All right, now, I want you to watch me do this, and then I want you to do it if you want to, or you can wait and do it later. It's up to you. But watch me do it first, because it's definitely something you want to see before you do, if you've never flambéed before. Now, the reason I told you not to measure your booze out ahead of time was because the alcohol will burn off. The alcohol will evaporate and it won't catch the light, is what I mean. So I'm going to put half a cup of rum in here. And I have banana liqueur, so I'm using a quarter cup of banana liqueur. That's a lot of booze, which is why we want it to evaporate. Now, I have gas here, okay? So I am going to light mine with the gas. But if you don't have gas, you want a match or a, or a taper lighter, something like this, all right, to light it. But I'm going to heat my alcohol in here. I'm going to tip it slightly like this. The fumes will catch a light, and then I'm going to pour it on my bananas. Okay, here. Now, when I'm going to do it with my right hand, so I'm right-handed. I'm going to catch it a light like this, and I'm going to go like this real quick, and I'm going to go like that and put my pan down. All right. Now, it may sound like I'm being really silly, but it isn't. It's really important, because if you do this towards you, you've now got the pan like this, and there are flames in here. All right. Or if you go like this, you may get flames on your counter. Not that it'll hurt you, it'll go out, but it'll make you jump. All right. So you want to go flame, catch, and down. All right. And then you won't frighten yourself. This amount of booze will catch a light pretty quickly. Once we pour it in here, you want to try and keep it alight. So you shake the pan over the heat. So I'll turn this on a very low heat at the back. And you, why isn't this coming on? And you shake it backwards and forwards. And the idea is to try and keep those flames alight for about 2 minutes. If they don't stay alight, you just keep cooking it anyway, because you want to burn off some of the raw alcohol taste, all right? Otherwise, you've got raw alcohol. So this won't take very long. Once I start to see a couple of little bubbles around the outside, I know it's going to be warm enough that I can then, it'll catch a light. It needs to be warm and in its raw state, i.e. not being exposed for ages. Reminds me to put the lid back on. There we go. All right. So I'm just going to let you watch me do this. Stay out to light, pour it on, and I'm going to shake it backwards and forwards. I'm not doing this too far in front because I've got a wooden extractor fan cover, and I have burnt it before now, which my husband wasn't too happy about. So again, this creates more oxygen in the pan, helps to keep the alcohol alight. All right. Now, bear in mind, it's the booze that's alight, nothing else. There's nothing in the pan that's alight. There's nothing, the pan's not alight or anything. If this spilt out, it would flame for a couple of seconds until the alcohol burns off that little bit that spilt out, and then it would stop. But I've got a really good flame going here. I'm going to move it back a bit because I don't want it near my wood top. There we go. Now it's gone out now, which is fine. Now, what you do want to do now is just taste it and see how it tastes. If you go, whoa, too much booze, then let it cook a bit longer. Yes, it's still a little alcohol-y. So I'm putting my flame back on, and I'm going to let it cook for a couple more minutes just to burn off a bit more of the alcohol, all right? Put the lights back on now. There we go. So I'm going to cook it for a couple more minutes, and then I'll taste it again to make sure I got rid of that raw alcohol. All right. 4 minutes to 5. And we started a couple of minutes late, so got a little bit of leeway. All right. So I'm going to turn the camera back. My strawberries are all nice and dry now. So with the scones, whichever you want to call them, all I'm going to do with these, let me grab a small plate. Turn this down to low. There we go. All right, so I'm going to take one of my scones, like this. I suggest, as they're so fresh, that if you cut them in half, you cut them with a bread knife. all right, because they're fresh out of the oven. And what you're going to do, you can either do them in 2 halves, or you can do them dollop and then put the stuff on top. What I normally do, take a dollop of cream, pop it on the top like that, and then add some of your berries. Now, I suggest that you use a slotted spoon for your berries, because you don't want all that liquid in there. You could always drizzle a bit of the liquid on the top afterwards, but just put a few of your berries on the top like that, let them run down the side, and then take the top of your scone and just put it on the top like that. All right. The other thing you could do, if you wanted to, you could sprinkle with confectioner's sugar as well. All right, so let me put that in the middle. I mean, you could drizzle extra berries around the outside if you wanted to. All right. And then for our bananas, I'm going to get a little bowl. Use this one actually, I think. I want a bowl that you can see them in, so I'm going to do a little glass bowl. So if you're doing this for a lot of people and you're doing it for a dinner party, what I suggest you do is do your ice cream in your bowls and put them in the freezer before dinner, because then you can literally take them out and put your nice hot bananas on the top. All right. So a couple of scoops of ice cream. My ice cream's rock hard, but never mind. There we go. Come on. There we go. That's enough in there. And then put your bananas on the top. I'm going to actually let mine break into pieces as I've got this small bowl. And I'm going to put a little bit of my liquid on as well. There we go. All right. There we go. There you go. 5 o'clock on the nose. How's that? So our bananas, our lovely strawberries, and then our lovely, ooh, pushing it the wrong way. With the, sorry, I haven't got. All right. So we're all done, guys. Hopefully that was timing. We were okay.